Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to RBN Hardware. In this video we're gonna put together a cheap gaming PC for New World that you can actually build. Let's get right into it. In this video I'm going to show you guys how to build this PC from start to finish, featuring a GTX 970 video card from Nvidia. I'm gonna run you guys through the entire building part before looking at some epic New World gameplay at 1080p low, medium to high settings so that you get a good idea what frame rate to expect. Now if you're curious how this PC runs some of the most popular games out there right now, I actually ended up testing 18 games in total, and as can be seen, most games run great on this PC. Anyway, at any point during the video feel free to check out the links where you find all PC parts listed. So buckle up, let's get started. Let's have a look at the system requirement and recommendation. Now, to be able to meet the recommended requirement in New World, you need at least a 4-core Intel i7-2700K or a 4-core first-gen Ryzen 5 1400. 16 gigs of RAM is recommended, and you also need a Radeon R9 390X or a GTX 970 from Nvidia. Now for this budget PC, I decided to match the specifications by going with a 4-core Ryzen and a GTX 970. As can be seen from my testing, using this $660 PC, I'm able to run the game at 1080p high settings with an average of 56 FPS. And dropping the settings down to low will have you sitting at a comfortable 81 FPS. If you rather pick the middle ground of medium settings, I was able to crank out 65 FPS with this gaming PC. And so in terms of frame rate, this machine will not disappoint you. Anyway, we will be looking at the gaming performance a little bit later in today's video. Also keep in mind guys, I am testing the closed beta and not the final game, so we might see a slight performance uplift when the final game releases in August. With that said, with that done, let's go ahead and build this PC. Let's get the motherboard out of the box, and this is an awesome budget motherboard with support up to Ryzen 5000. Now before installing the CPU, let's go ahead and get rid of these two CPU cooler holders, and then we can go ahead and unbox the CPU. For today's build, I'm picking the 4-core Ryzen 3 3100, which offers better IPC and clock speed than previous Ryzen generations. The 3100 can, however, still be a bit tricky to find in stock, and so if you cannot find the 3100 in stock, I recommend the similarly priced Ryzen 1600AF, which practically is a Ryzen 5 2600 for just $150. Now, as can be seen, both the 2100 and the 1600AF delivers great gaming performance thanks to high IPC and thread count. Now to install the CPU, all we need to do is to match up the triangle located at the left side corner with the triangle located on the motherboard. Lift up the lever, line up the triangles, then simply just gently drop the CPU in its socket, then lower the lever and the CPU is installed. Next up, let's go ahead and get the cooler ready for installation. Now the cooler I'm picking comes included with the 3100. This is a great heatsink that will keep our CPU cool and quiet. Make sure that the AMD logo is facing the I/O and that the 4 spring screws align with the screw holes. Then carefully tighten the cooler down in a pattern something like this until you feel resistance. Then take the CPU fan cable, and this should be plugged into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Next up is the M.2 guys, and I'm going to link up the best M.2 deal down below. Now the M.2 easily slides into its socket with a 45-degree angle and will be fastened using the M.2 screw. That brings us over to our RAM pick, and to meet the system recommendation for New World, you need at least 16GB. And so this is a 2x8GB kit, which is a price tag of $88, which makes it one of the cheaper choices out there currently. But if you want to get away as cheaply as possible, you find my best budget deal also linked up down below. Let's go ahead and get a good look at the case. This is the Phanteks P360A, coming in at $80, and for that you're getting plenty of RGB that can be addressed via the button at the front. We're also getting great cooling over our components thanks to the well ventilated front. Now if you want to save a few dollars here, I recommend checking out the P300A instead, which has a very similar build quality, a slightly smaller footprint for just $60. Before we install the motherboard, don't forget the motherboard IO shield we find inside the motherboard box. This will be installed from the inside of the case with the circular ports at the bottom. Then we can go ahead and secure the motherboard using the screws that comes provided by Phanteks. Now we're almost ready to install our power supply, but first let's grab the case cables and install these first so that we don't have to deal with this stuff later. This is what the USB 3 cable looks like, and the connector is located down at the bottom of the motherboard. Next up we have the front audio, and this cable goes to the left side corner. Lastly we have the front panel connector, and you find this on the lower right side. Now we can grab the power supply, and you want to make sure that the fan is facing downwards, put it in its slot and secure it. Now we're gonna do just a few more cables guys before it is time to install our video card. Yeah, first up we got the 24-pin power for our motherboard. This one goes to the right side of the board. Next up we have this 8-pin power, and this one goes all the way up to the left side corner. We need the SATA power connector to feed power to the RGB button we find at the front of the case. And with that all done, let's go ahead and install the graphics card. This is the GeForce GTX 970. Now the model I'm demonstrating on is called Twin Frozer, and it comes from MSI. But as always, you can choose whatever 960 variant you want here and expect similar gaming performance. The 970 packs 4 gigs of G5 memory, or yeah, technically 3.5, but regardless it is enough to run New World at 1080p high settings with pretty good frame rate. Having a quick look at the 970 performance done against similarly priced competitors, we see that this GPU holds up pretty alright in today's modern games, making it a perfect budget pick for a cheap gaming PC for New World right now, where the GPU prices are inflated. If we take a deeper look at the 18-game benchmark, running some of the most popular games out there at 1080p low and medium settings shows that the 970 holds up great in 2021. Now while the 970 is fairly old by now, it is still clearly not obsolete, even though 4GB of RAM starting to become minimum requirement for many games now. Now currently a used 970 can be picked up from eBay running between $140 to over $200. If you're able to find one for around $160, that is actually a pretty alright deal, knowing that we have to spend around the same money for a GT 1030, which is, as can be seen, miles less powerful in comparison. Anyway, plug in the graphics card and take this dual PCIe cable and plug it into our graphics, and that is it guys. Slap on the side panel and we can fire up the PC. So let's do that, and let's take a greater look at some of the games tested at a deeper level. Yeah, before we do that, here is what the final part list is looking like. As can be seen, you should be able to pick up all parts for around $660 and this is definitely one of the best price to performance gaming PCs out there right now. Let's look at the gaming performance at a deeper level, starting with 1080p high settings, and with these settings we're getting around 52 to 56 FPS with 1% low at around 46. With pretty much everything set to low, you can expect as much as 81 FPS on average, and if you opt for medium, 68 FPS is what you can expect with this PC featuring the 970 GPU. Now this video took me ages to complete, so please, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to never miss any of my future gaming PC builds. Thank you so much for watching.